Hey everybody, welcome back to Tech Odyssey. So today I'm here with my full review of the BlackBerry KEY2 LE, or Lite Edition as some people like to call it. Now, I've been using Blackberries for a long time. Since 2005 was when I got my very first BlackBerry. I've had all the BlackBerry mobile devices, so the Key1, the Motion, the Key2, now the Key2 LE. And I have to say, out of all of them, I think this one is probably my favorite. I've been using this as my daily driver for 2 weeks. I was using my iPhone XS Max, and I had a little bit of heartburn at first switching over because I've got the Apple Watch and iPad and all that good stuff. So I had a little bit of a heartburn with that, but after I started using the keyboard, that kind of melted away, and ultimately I ended up selling my XS Max the other day, and I've got a XR as a backup phone, but this is my primary, and I've been using it, like I said, for 2 weeks. So this is the Atomic Red edition. It comes in other colors. It comes in the gray. It comes in, I think they call it Slate Gray, and then they've got also the Champagne color. Pretty cool. The extra colors cost you more money, which I don't particularly agree with, but I guess you want to try and get some more money out of it. But the Atomic Red, I really like it. I've never had any of the red Blackberries before. I wanted one with the Z10. I wanted one whenever it came to the Passport, but they were always elusive. I never got one. So this is my first red Blackberry, and I think this is probably the best color that they've ever had. I really enjoy it. And I picked it up the other day. It was a really good deal. I got it for $349. Now, it's back up to normal prices now, like $449 for the regular, $499 for the Atomic Red, the Champagne color at Best Buy. But if you can get this under 400 bucks, I think it's a good deal. Now, just to run down the specs in case there's somebody here that's watching that isn't already familiar with the phone, this is the Lite version of the BlackBerry KEY2. So the Key2's got a more powerful processor, it's got a larger battery, it's got more memory, it's got a couple extra things going for it, like the touch sensitive keyboard that's not present in this one. So in this one we've got the same screen, the 4.5 inch IPS 1620 by 1080, so it's 1080p at 433 pixels per inch. It's got a Snapdragon 636, which is a slight bump down from the 660 that's in the Key2. It's got dual camera setup on the rear, 13 megapixel and 5 megapixel that work together. You got an 8 megapixel front facing camera, 3000 milliamp battery, down from 3500 in the Key2. It's got Android 8.1, which is good. Actually, I'm really looking forward to Android Pie if that ever works its way around. But that's pretty much it. And it's got 4 gigabytes of RAM. It's got 64 gigs of storage, as you can see here on the front, and it's dual SIM. So that's a nice feature as well. So, talking about the BlackBerry KEY2 LE, a lot of people I think are interested in this phone because of the colors, and they also like the price tag versus the KEY2. The KEY2 is $699, which I think is entirely too expensive. If it were around the $549 price tag, or I think it would be a much better option and would probably have sold a lot better. Now this at $499, $449, I think it is still a little bit high, but BlackBerry Mobile works on different margins than the rest of the smartphone world. They don't make as many, and they have to sell more of them at higher cost to try and break even. So I'm willing to give them a little bit more money so they'll continue to make phones, because I don't want my BlackBerry keyboards to go away. But I do think for the average consumer it's going to be more than they're interested in paying, considering the other things that are available out there. But for a BlackBerry user, I think it's worth it. If you can get this under 400 bucks, I think it's a really good deal. If you pay more than 400 bucks for it, I would try and get a Key2 on sale, because the Key2 is more powerful. It does have more things going for it, and if you like the capacitive keyboard, you're probably going to be a little frustrated with this. But for me, I never really cared for the capacitive keyboard. All I ever used it for really was a little bit of swiping up and down when I was using the browser or an app so I could scroll. And also, the one thing I did miss is being able to swipe backwards on the keyboard to delete. I kind of wish they had that. That would be really nice, or if they could program something into a hotkey to delete faster. But otherwise, I don't miss the capacitive keyboard. I do miss the RAM. I do wish that it had 6 gigabytes of RAM. Even with the Snapdragon 636 in here, I feel like it should have 6 gigabytes of RAM. Why? Because I keep getting low memory notifications. And because of that, it slows the phone down, and you'll notice that it has hard time, opening additional apps once, it's reached its max capacity for RAM, or it'll be slow switching back and forth. It'll start to get laggy, so you have to close things out. Now, I have this case on here that I've been using. It's Anker, I guess, ANCCER, and I've been very happy with the case. It works out well. It looks really good with the phone. I did a review on the case if you're interested in checking that out, but I do like it. It's not overly protective, but it does keep everything intact and it keeps it safe, so I'm happy with that. Now, one of the great features about having a physical keyboard is not just typing, but it's also the shortcut keys. Now, we've got our fingerprint sensor built in to the spacebar, which is really nice, and I think it's the best working one yet. On the key one, it was good. It did feel a little loose, and I think one of the things I like the most about this keyboard is they've finally been able to tighten everything up. You have uniform consistency and the pressure on the buttons, everything. The seams are good, they're solid. Nothing feels loose or wiggly, and you have consistent key press and feedback across the board. So the KEY2, the spacebar, drove me nuts because it had that higher pitched clicky noise that was different from the rest of the buttons. But with this one, as you can see, everything is pretty much the same. So they did a good job with that. Now, I'll show you again the key. The spacebar works really well as a fingerprint sensor. Let me get this out of the way. So, like I said, what is the point of having a keyboard if you can't do extra cool things that somebody without a keyboard can't do? So, you have shortcut keys. Now you have the long press, and you have a short press, and you have the speed key, and then you even have the convenience key. So the convenience keys, they work great. You can program any one of the letters on here. So I have C, just press it real quick, it goes to Chrome. If I do a long press, it pulls up the calculator. So you can program each one of those individually, and if you've never used it before, it'll pop up and give you the options. So I haven't used K, so I press K and it'll give me some options there. And those are, just different ones you can pick. And then you can go in and figure out what you want to assign it to. So you can do that, and then the same thing with the long press, since I've never used the long press before. There we go. So that's cool. The other thing is the keyboard shortcuts don't work when you're inside an app, which is why they made the speed key. So go ahead and load up Instagram real quick. And you can see I press the C button, it doesn't do anything. None of the buttons do anything. So you can program in the speed key, which you have to follow along and use this button right here, that's the speed key, while you're inside the app. So you press that, and then you press whatever it is that you've got programmed for your convenience key. So there you go. So it'll still work while you're inside there. So that's one of the nice things about the speed key. So you got short key, a short press, long press, and speed key. Now over here on the right hand side, you've got your volume rocker, you got your power button, and then ta-da, you got your convenience key. The convenience key can be programmed to any app. And then what you'll do is you'll press it. I have mine programmed to Slack, which is what I use all the time, but I actually changed it up a little bit and turned on the Google Assistant profile. So whenever you open this, turn it on straight out of the box, it's going to be programmed in the Google Assistant profile. You'll press this and then it'll go straight to Google Assistant. Well, I have mine on the normal profile where I have Slack in there as well, which is what mine is normally programmed to. So you can press either one of these icons and it'll go ahead and load it up. So there we go. So you can use that at any time while you're doing anything. So I'll fire up Slack. So you can I'll go back into Instagram, I hit my convenience key, and it'll give me the option there again. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can go into the settings. And while you're in the settings, shortcuts and gestures, convenience key, normal profile here. Let me show you the Google Assistant profile. So if you have the Google Assistant profile, it'll go ahead and pull up Google Assistant, which is really nice. It's actually was a really nice surprise whenever I turned it on. And then we'll go back, shortcuts and gestures, change it to my normal profile, and you can click on the profile and you can go in there. So I'll go ahead and take Google out. So all it has now programmed to it is Slack. Ta-da, pull Slack right up. Easy peasy. So I do like that. Now the hub, I'm really not a big fan of the hub at all. I have the hub disabled, 1, because it's slow, 2, because it takes up so much memory, and 3, because I don't really feel like it helps out all that much. The hub was amazing on BlackBerry 10. I absolutely loved it. If I get some feedback and people are interested, I'll fire up the hub and I'll make a separate video and show you the hub. There's also the beta of the hub, which I signed up for. I haven't downloaded it yet. So I'm hoping that it gets better, but ultimately you're going to run into problems with RAM because the BlackBerry launcher has terrible memory management, and it doesn't have enough RAM. So with the 6 gigabytes of RAM, I never had any problems whatsoever in the KEY2. In the KEY2 LE, like I said, if you run like 8, 9, 10 things at once, you're going to get a warning. It's going to pop up. It's going to say low memory notification, and then you got to go through and close stuff out. It's really annoying, and you do notice that the performance starts to suffer, and it starts to lag, and it starts to shutter, and it starts having problems opening new apps, switching between apps. So I really don't like that at all, and there's really no way around it. Maybe whenever they ultimately come out with a Android Pie update, if that's something that they're going to do, and I hope that they do, then they might can fix that and have some better memory management. I know that the memory management and the active profiles for the adaptive battery and things like that in Android Pie are supposed to be good. I've been using in other phones, so I'm hoping that some swipe gestures and some other cool things will work their way over. But right now, it's not available, and the memory management is not good. So basically, to keep this running at top notch, whenever you're thinking about it, just go in and close stuff out you're not using. So I like to keep as little stuff running as possible. That way, I get the best experience out of it. Now, the screen brightness is okay. I'm not going to turn it up. I've got it turned down right now so you can actually see what I'm doing. It doesn't get overly bright. It's not nearly as bright as most any other phone you're going to use, and the LCD panel I find disappointing, but it is manageable. It's the same screen essentially that was in the KEY2, which I also thought was subpar. The speakers are okay. Nothing to write home about. They don't really crackle. They don't try and push out too much sound or too much power, so they work well. It's just normal, easy listening speakers, so don't expect anything amazing quality out of it, but they work just fine. The volume's good. The handset volume is fine. I've had some instances with mine where sometimes whenever I call people, I have a hard time hearing them, and I've gotten some feedback from other people, and it seems like it might just be my device, but it seems like when anyone calls me, I can hear perfectly fine. But I can call somebody and it's like half as much volume as normal, and then I'll have to hang up and call them back, and sometimes it'll work, or I'll have them call me and then it seems to work fine. So I'm hoping that it's just a software issue. It didn't seem to do it the first week. I had a patch that I downloaded, so I think it's just a software related issue. If not, then I'll get another unit, which is fine. But it's kind of a pain in the rear, and hopefully it doesn't affect other devices. Other things with regard to this phone, the camera is pretty much, even though it's different, it's pretty much the same as the KEY2. It takes decent pictures out in normal, ideal lighting. I do have a couple pictures loaded to Instagram. You can check back through my profile. I took a picture of one of the flowers out in my one of my roses. I took some food pictures. I took an outside picture. During ideal lighting conditions, and by ideal I mean like perfect lighting conditions, it takes good pictures. And anything outside of ideal perfect lighting, it takes not very impressive good pictures at all. It has problems with auto adjusting. It has problems with brightness. It has problems with clarity. Pictures look blown out. You can't really make out the edges or some of the fine details. So if you are thinking about buying this to take pictures with, buy another phone, because it's not very good with pictures at all. If I want to take a picture of something that's like, okay, I just need to take a picture of a still object, I don't care, it's not going on Facebook, it's nothing I want to be proud of, I just need to take a picture of something real quick, then it works perfectly fine. The shutter speed is good, the camera interface is nice and simple, but if you want good pictures, it's not going to take them. And I hate to say that, especially selfies. The front-facing camera is pretty terrible, especially in anything less than ideal conditions. It takes terrible pictures. So this phone is built around multitasking, which it's limited by the amount of RAM that it has and the memory management, but when it's working good. And I think that it's better than the KEY1. At this point, I wouldn't waste any money on the KEY1 unless you can get it for less than $300. If you can pick one up for like $299, the 4 gigabyte model is probably still good for at least another year. This one I think is good for probably a year or two. I'm hoping that they'll announce something at Mobile World Convention. I think is in March in Barcelona. Usually that's whenever BlackBerry will make announcements regarding phones. They've already said, as far as I know, they're not going to have anything at CES this week, so don't look forward to that, but maybe if there's something coming down the pipeline, we'll find out in another month or two. Now, if you've got a KEY1, I'd say you could probably stick with the KEY1. right now, because I think performance-wise, the way everything is built into it, I think that you're probably better off than spending the money. It's not a really good generational upgrade. This is more of a, I didn't buy Key 1, I didn't want to spend 600 bucks on the Key 2, so I went ahead and got this. Or I've missed having a keyboard and I wanted to switch back over. There are a lot of compelling reasons for getting it. The keyboard experience is solid, the typing experience is great. The performance, whenever you're not having issues with memory management or if you don't want to take pictures, is good. Like I said, I love the phone. I've been using it for 2 weeks, and I think that it's a solid product. And I think it was an experiment by BlackBerry Mobile to kind of take a look at things and see how they could get the price point down, see if it sells, and offer some different color options out there and see if it's something people are interested in. So I hope that the consumer feedback is good as far as purchasing it, because I'd really like to see a follow-up device to this. I'm okay with having a BlackBerry that doesn't have a touch keyboard, but some people absolutely love the touch keyboard. And if you used a BlackBerry prior to the Passport, we got along just fine without it, so it's nothing that's earth-shattering. Now, it is, if you really, really invested yourself in it, it was really, really nice. But I don't really think, I think that it drove the price of the phones up too much. So I think if they could compromise or make two versions, make one where they have the capacitive keyboard, make one without and sell it for like 100, 150 bucks difference, but keep the same hardware, I think that would be the better way to go, because really I think this one suffers a little bit too much on the processor and the memory side of the house. Now the processor is better than what was in the Key 1, which was the 625. I was a little disappointed whenever they came out with that one because it was slow. I got rid of my Key 1 because it was too slow. This one is more peppy. It works faster. I don't really have any issues until the memory notifications pop up. And some people say they don't really even get them. So I don't know if maybe I just load too much stuff and forget to clear it out, or maybe need to do more active application management and that'll fix it, or kill more things in the background. But overall, the experience on this phone is very good. It's been very positive. If you can get it for less than 400 bucks, it's a fantastic deal, and I think you'll be happy with it. If you pay the $449 to $499 price tag, you're going to be less happy with it, I think. But overall, it's a solid device. I think it deserves a look if it's something that you're interested in, especially if you want a physical keyboard again. It's a beautiful phone. Let me go and take the case off here. Yeah, it is a, if I get this off. There we go. Now, it is a beautiful device. I very much enjoy using it. I'm very happy with it. It's very light and balanced. Everything about it, I think they finally nailed as far as the aesthetics, the form factor. The keyboard, I think, is the best one yet out of the BlackBerry Mobile series devices they've been making for the last year and a half. So a lot of things they got right with this one. If they can take this, throw a little bit more horsepower under the hood, give it a little bit more memory, and if they can give us a brighter screen that has better contrast on it and more memory and better camera, I think we'll be in the right spot. And I think pretty much everybody will be happy. So we'll see what the future holds, but this is what we have right now, the BlackBerry KEY2 LE. Again, if you have any, as always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section. I'll get back with you. I've used this phone extensively, so I should be able to answer pretty much anything you can think of. And I love the phone, I do. I do have some hangups with it, but they're a little bit less of a compromise for me because they finally got the price down to a good point, I think. If you can get it less than 400, and I think you'll probably see it on sale again soon. So just keep an eye on the sales, see if you can pick it up whenever the price drops a little bit lower, because I think at 300 to 350 bucks, it's an amazing phone, and I like it. So that's all I got. This is my full review of the BlackBerry KEY2 LE, and I'll see you guys next time.